So let's talk about your documentary to begin with. What is a woman? And so that's caused all sorts of misery and grief around the world and made people happy as well to have someone finally come out and make what was essentially a kind of black comedy about this preposterous state of affairs that we happen to find ourselves in. And so tell us about the genesis of the idea and why you thought that was your problem. You know, people ask me, well, why does this trans thing bother you? Why do you care? Like, you know, what's up with you? Why can't you just leave these poor people alone? And I mean, my answer to that is because they're cutting the musculature off the forearms of children to build penises that don't work. That's one of the reasons that I can't leave it alone. There's many others which we can get to, but in your situation, why did you decide to go after this particular topic? Why did it grip you?
I think, well, the reason that you gave is a very good one. The fact that they're mutilating kids. Like, you really don't need, there are so many reasons why this issue matters and we ought to be engaged on it. But you don't actually need to go past the simple fact that they're mutilating and butchering and abusing kids. So that is one of the motivations for me on a personal level. The fact that I am a dad and I do have 6 kids, 4 kids at the time when we started making the film. But the fact that my kids are inheriting this culture that has forgotten some of the most basic facts of reality is really distresses me and troubles me. And I hear stories all the time, and I'm sure you hear these stories too, constantly from parents of usually, you know, kids are a little bit older than mine, adolescent kids. They go off to school, they come home, and almost seemingly out of nowhere, the child is a new person, has totally transformed for the worse. Doesn't, you know, maybe your daughter comes home, declares, "Oh, I'm a boy," and then I've heard these kinds of stories so many times, and it's terrifying, it's harrowing, and so just on a personal level, I'm worried about my kids being in that kind of environment. But then also underneath all of that, yeah, there's what this does to kids. There's the fact that opportunities are being taken away from women, and women are being they're being degraded by this and dehumanized by it, and all of that, appropriated, their identity appropriated. All that is true. But what is underneath it, the underlying issue under all of that is that this is just an attack on truth itself. So the reason why I really care about it, first and foremost, is that it's not true. Like we are being told that we must accept something that is not true, that we must go along with something that is not true. And I care about the truth, because if you don't care about the truth, then what's the point of anything? Like, what's the point of anything that we're doing or saying or any of that if we're willing to discard the truth? And when I first noticed this trans issue becoming kind of mainstream, which was probably around, you know, it's hard to pinpoint a year, but 2014, 2015, around the time when Bruce Jenner, you know, declared himself, Caitlyn Jenner was crowned Woman of the Year. I think that was kind of that's not where all this started, but that was the moment, if there was one particular moment, where it surged into the mainstream. And I remember that quite vividly. And I also remember being distressed by the fact that so many people who I thought were on my side thought that this was kind of a sideshow distraction. They didn't think it would go anywhere. They thought it was a fad. It wasn't important. There were a lot of conservatives who just went along with it because they were trying to be polite. And
well, conservatives do that a lot.
They do, and it's unfortunate because in some ways it's a good impulse that you want to be polite. You have good intentions. You don't want to be mean to somebody. You don't want to make them feel bad. And those good intentions are exploited to a great extent by the left. But that was when I noticed people on the right completely dropping the ball on this subject or refusing to pick up the ball to begin with. Like they didn't want to play this game at all. That's when I felt personally compelled to, step up.